Hello, everyone. I'm Lawrence from Osmos, and I'm part of the EU FarmBook. I will change my name in a bit. Welcome today to this online training session specifically dedicated to the different ways in which you can upload content onto the EU FarmBook. Before we get started with the content specifically, I want to share a couple of messages with you around these training sessions. So the first thing is that actually it's important to know that this is one training session in a series of online training sessions. So we have these at on a monthly basis. But if you're not able to make one of those training sessions, it's very handy to know that these are actually recorded, and you're actually not being filmed, which is good for us because that way there's no need for GDPR approval, and we can immediately make the video session online, available online. If you go specifically to the web page, I provided a QR code there. You can go to the training sessions web page. You can consult upcoming training sessions, but also the previous ones, including the presentations of these training sessions. So it's a very handy page to frequently visit if you're in doubt about certain issues. And then specifically when it comes to this specific training session, if you have questions, I opened up the chat. Uh, all these questions will basically end up in my little mailbox, and I will ask them to our guest. In this case, this is Lewis Powell from Maastricht University. And if there are specific questions that we cannot answer at this point, then we will take them up and potentially create another training session for these. But I will try to ask as many questions to Lewis as is possible regarding this. So with that being said, I will stop sharing my screen and I will ask Lewis to share his. Lewis, the floor is
There we
yours.
go. Hopefully you can see my screen okay there now. It should show
Yes,
the farm
perfect.
book front page. So good morning everyone. Yeah, as Lauren's introduced, I'm Lewis Powell. I'm a software engineer at the University of Maastricht, and I work in one of the two work packages that's responsible for the technical development of the platform. So we have a couple of things to go through today. One is around how you can contribute to the EU Farm Book using the upload form, which is the kind of primary way of getting a knowledge object, so something like a PDF or a video into the platform. And then second of all, a bulk uploading tool that we will eventually put into the platform so that you can use it directly. But at the moment, we have an interim solution where you can work with your project ambassador at the EU Farm Book in order to basically populate a spreadsheet with all of the information of the objects you want to provide to the platform, and then they can process that for you. So basically, you can bypass the need for the upload form. There are a couple of prerequisites to being able to contribute to the platform. The first thing is that you need to create an account with the platform. So if you go to our site, eufarmbook.eu, and go to sign up at the top right-hand corner, you can just fill in your name and surname, your email address, and give a password. Take a look at our privacy policy, and then that will create an account for you. You will receive a link in your email for you to validate that you were the person who requested the account, and then you are just a kind of basic member with the platform, and that's the kind of first step. The second step is that you then will need to get in contact with your EU Farmbook ambassador, and just make sure that we know that you are say, the contributor or the coordinator for a given project. The reason for that is that we need to register projects with our platform, which is something that you can do, but we first of all just need to authenticate that the coordinator is in fact the coordinator for a given project, just because otherwise we would be open to the public for anyone to come in, register any project, say any Horizon project, and start uploading material without us validating their identity. So once you've made that step with your ambassador, you can register your project, and I'll show you here in another window where I'm already logged in. So here I'm already logged into my account, and on the home page you will see this call to action: contribute to the EU Farm Book. You go to contribute research, and then it says, are you a project coordinator? And then you have this other call to action here to request access. And then here you can provide the information for your given project. and your website URL. And then you just need to have a look at the contributor agreement and the Creative Commons license and our privacy policy, and then you can request access to any given project. Now, in my case, I've already got access to the Arachnis project, which was a kind of predecessor project to the EU-FarmBook. So once you're already registered with a project, you will see that you will see this little button at the top right-hand corner where you can add contribution. And also, if you go into your own user menu, you'll see a list of your projects. So here I have one project allocated to me within this within my account. I'm project coordinator for that account, and you'll be able to see all of the individual contributions that have been made over time. It's also very worthwhile.
Just to interrupt you, is it possible to magnify a bit
Oh,
the
sure.
content on the screen because some people have difficulty seeing it?
Is that a
Yes.
bit better?
I think maybe a tiny
Bit
bit
more?
bigger. Yes, I think that should be good. Yes,
There you
thank
go. Sorry about that. I've got a new large screen at home, and it looks good for me, but I didn't appreciate it. It wouldn't be great if I'm sharing. One other main resource I would suggest to take a look at in our platform before you contribute knowledge objects is our metadata guide. So on every page within the farm book, you'll see this top bar where you can go into our support pages. And then if you scroll down here, you can get access to all the individual metadata guides. Just see where it's taking us. Oh, the pitfalls of doing a live demo. We have something taking a bit of time here. Let me just see.
I can also add that specifically for the metadata guide, we've just also had another session on annotation. So there's also reference specifically to the metadata guide and how you need to annotate a specific knowledge object. So feel free to also consult that one. It will be online soon.
Let me just check this has nothing to do with my connection. Can you see on your side, Lawrence, if you've got any issues accessing the platform now? If not, I will switch over to our test environment.
I will quickly see.
Sorry about this. Okay. No, I'll move over to our test environment.
Yeah, I think it might be best to do that because I'm indeed seeing very slow loading.
Yeah. Oh.
Now it's
okay. Now it's back. Okay. Yeah, we may have just had a release go in a terrible timing, but let me switch back here. Let me see. So yeah, so now I'm in the support pages of the platform. If you scroll down to the bottom here, you'll see manuals and documents, and then there is our metadata guide, which you can download in a PDF. And that metadata guide gives a lot of information about each of the individual properties that we ask to collect when you provide a knowledge object to the platform. So it's worth just taking a look through here. You'll see why we are asking for this metadata and what we do with it. And then an explanation whether or not each of these different properties is required and some expected values in the case where you don't get the option to just fill in the property yourself. You might have to select, for example, from a list of 6 different topics, including, say, farming and forestry. So yeah, once you've familiarized yourself with the metadata guide, and you have a knowledge object, like I said, a PDF or a video that you want to contribute, then you can go to the upload form. So the upload form you'll see is you can get to it either by going to add contribution in the top right hand corner, or by going back into your projects and oh, excuse me a second. I will just give myself access back to this project. Yeah, I think I will switch over to the test environment. There's definitely something going on here at the moment. Just bear with me 1 second. I will stop sharing and switch over.
Yes, I'm also trying to see if there's one of our partners doing an update for the moment. So just to explain to everyone, we always have a specific production environment where most of
Nice.
you actually have access to, but we also have a test environment where we develop actually a lot of the features and code before we actually release them to the public. So that one is generally we know who's doing updates on that and we know who is not.
Yeah, it's back. I wonder here if I'm having some issues here with my VPN, but I'm it seems to be okay here now. I'll carry on from here. Yeah, hopefully this is the last time. Yeah, so if I go to add contribution, you if you've got multiple projects within your profile, um, you can still see my screen. Okay, so you can still see this. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. If you've got multiple projects in your profile, then you're able to select them from the list here. So here I've only got the one, so I can make a selection and then go to the next step. So I have a little helper document on my other screen here, which is why you'll see some of this detail come across quite quickly. So the first thing we ask you to do is to choose the file which you want to upload. And just to say, there's no risk here of you ever contributing the same knowledge object twice. So once you've uploaded a given PDF or a given video, there's no way for that same video or PDF to be uploaded again. We do a check of its content, and if we see that it's a duplicate, you'll see an error raised here. So you can either choose the file from your Explorer, or you can drag and drop it. So I have already a folder over here with a couple of example knowledge objects I've created. And what I'm going to do is use the same metadata for the knowledge objects that have already been uploaded for this project, just for example, but with two new knowledge objects that I've created, which are just some screen prints from the old Euracnos website. So I have a PDF here, which I've just called an example PDF with a screen print here. And then another screen print just to show two different versions of a knowledge object where, for example, we might have two different language versions of the same knowledge object. So I can first of all drag this example PDF over to here. You'll see it gets uploaded and give you some information about its size and tell you it's been uploaded. And then you can choose the language. So in this case, I'll select English. Now, if you want to provide more than one version of a knowledge object with different languages, you can do that at this point. And what that does is it saves you from having to upload the same knowledge object and the same metadata over and over again. So basically, they just share all the metadata that you provide afterwards, but you have two different versions of that knowledge object that I'll show you afterwards will be available via the platform. So you can click on Add a Translated Version, and then go and find the other one. So I will go to here and do this another example. You see that one uploaded, and then you can choose the language. So let's just, for example, in this case, choose Dutch. So now you're into providing the actual metadata. And one thing that's really important to bear in mind is that the metadata is the kind of the fundamental part of our platform that will connect users of the platform to your knowledge objects. So the more thorough you provide metadata and the more accurate in regards to each of the knowledge objects you're providing, the more likely someone is to be connected with your knowledge object. So I will just use, like I say, the same title, but with a little comment to say that this is a test that we had for the existing knowledge object for Euracnos. You then can give a description up to 500 words. And anytime you're unsure about any of these properties, you can take a look at these little I buttons that are here, and then you'll get some further information on the left-hand side of what we're asking for here and why. Some of this information comes directly from the metadata guide. You can also see, based upon the little stars here, whether or not a property is mandatory or not. So I'll just copy across the same description from before. now we move into where you have to make selections based on some pre-existing lists of values. So the first one we ask for is the category of the particular knowledge object. So in this case, we're providing a document. So if I click document, it then gives me some additional properties to fill in based upon that selection. The first thing is a digital object identifier. So if your knowledge object happens to have its own DOI or digital object identifier, you can put that in here, but you can see it's not mandatory as there's no star there. You can then fill in the kind of more specific type of knowledge object. So based upon your selection up here, you will get a list of particular types that sit within this particular group of document. So in the case of the one that we're uploading for Arachnos, it was a brochure, a guide, a tutorial, and a manual. So let's finish that. Now moving on to the next one. So now you get to basically annotate your knowledge object with some keywords that are from your own kind of vocabulary. So you don't need to use a predefined list. We just ask you to put in as many keywords as you like, and you use a comma to separate them, and then they will be saved as individual keywords within our platform. And this is one of the primary things that, based upon someone typing into our search engine one of these keywords, will connect them to your knowledge object. So it's good to spend some time here thinking about what are the most accurate keywords to label your knowledge object. So this is what we did for the Arachnos one that we uploaded. Now you're into the topics. You will see these 6 topics all over the EU FarmBook. These are really here to help people who come into the FarmBook and aren't necessarily sure of exactly what they're looking for, just to really narrow their search at their first entry point. So you will see these six different topics. So in the case of this knowledge object, we picked 2 different topics: economics and society. I can see here that there's the subtopics are supposed to come up. Just a second. I'll come back to this shortly. 1 second. So now on to here you go. Once you've made selections on your topics, you'll see the subtopics that you can select underneath these ones. So we had a few different ones here. So we had digitalization, social innovation, social innovation. Anyway, I won't go through all the different ones that we've put on the other one. And then onto the creators. So here you get to provide the names of the individual creators of your knowledge object and their email address. So the coordinator of our current platform is Peter Spanog. So I will put in his information here and his email address, and then just make sure you hit this add creator before you move on to the next one. One of the common issues we find sometimes is that people fill these 2 things in, but then don't press add creator, and then when you get down to the bottom of the form, you will get a call back to tell you to go and do that. You then need to put in the license for your particular knowledge object. In this case, it was a CC BY. In a new version of the upload form that will be released shortly, it will be all the same properties, but there's actually a license picker that will be very helpful. So for people who are unsure of what license to put in, there is a kind of nice matrix that lets you see the different options and make a selection if you don't already know what license your knowledge object can be saved under. And then you fill in the intended purpose. So you have a free choice here of these different options. We did originally for this one, communication, education, training, dissemination, and decision-making support. And then the last 2 things, the date of completion and geographic locations. At the moment, you select the day, the month, and the year individually, but in the new version of the upload form, you'll see there's just a simple date picker. So I'll just pick some arbitrary dates here. And then for the geographic locations, you can include the individual countries, or if it's spanning across all of Europe, you can just simply choose Europe. And this is what we did in this case. So once you've filled everything in, you can go back through and just take a quick review and make sure that everything's filled in okay, but you get another opportunity to do that once you've pressed submit. So you hit submit, and then you'll see all of your information that you've just provided for each of the different metadata properties. You can then at this point also go and add another knowledge object. So if you wanted to, you don't need to submit this and then go back to the upload form and go through it again. You can upload multiple knowledge objects at the same time, even if they don't share the same metadata. But then finally, you go to finalize contribution. You see the overview here, and then you just finally submit your contribution to the platform. At this point, you're automatically diverted back to your My Projects, and then you'll see the knowledge object that we created here is now at the bottom of this list. So you can go press this plus symbol here, see a kind of high-level overview, or you can go to the individual page for this knowledge object within the platform. So if I click on this action here and go to See on Platform, we now see the knowledge object that we just uploaded. Bearing in mind, obviously, here that all I did was upload a screen print for the two different PDFs. But you can see here now how the different language translations would be presented. And on the right-hand side, you see all of the contribution information. And you also get a link if you want to go to the project page for the specific project of this knowledge object. So if I click on Eurachnos here, we drop into the Eurachnos project page, which of course isn't working at the moment. But yeah, you then see the metadata for the Eurachnos project and all of its contributions beneath it as well. So every project within our platform, once they're registered, gets its own project page. And this is one of the main areas that are being developed at the moment, so that you can also upload a logo here and provide additional metadata to explain your project to different users. From the upload form perspective, I think that's pretty much everything to go through at the moment. One thing we would like to really suggest as well is, particularly for the titles, we've noticed sometimes, for example, projects use titles that will mean something to the project, but maybe not to a user. So, for example, having like the deliverable name within the title. So I think it's really important to give a title that is more from the perspective of the user of the platform than for the perspective of, say, the project that produced it. But the metadata guide gives some further information on that. So I will stop here on the upload form, and perhaps we can go to any questions before we go into showing the bulk upload tool.
Yes, I think we already have a specific question, but it already relates a bit to the bulk uploading. And specifically regarding, well, is there actually a plan to do bulk uploading or transfers from Zenodo or from EIP Agri database? Because, well, people say, well, this is consuming quite a bit of time actually to upload it there.
Yeah, that's a good question. So we've already, for example, looked with the EIP Agri operational groups. So to ingest all of the project's data from the CAP network website, so that we don't have to basically ask people to go and register all these projects when we can already pick up that information from there. And then also with the practice abstracts that exist there, we've already investigated that we are able to go and pull the practice abstracts from the EIP Agri. We need to obviously format them into a PDF document, for example, which is something that Work Package 3, who are responsible for the ambassadors, are already looking at, which is how do we basically take each of these practice abstracts and convert them into a format that will look good within the platform and not just be a lot of text. So it's certainly something that is already being looked at within the EU-FarmBook. One thing that I think, at least I'm a little bit unsure of there, is how we would then go and populate all the metadata for those practice abstracts. Some of it we could pull automatically from the CAP network website, but for example, the topics and the categories and things like that, perhaps we would need some support with the ambassadors and the individual projects to go and fill in that information. But certainly we could do this in an automated fashion and not ask people to have to go through the upload form to do that.
Yeah, and I think there are two comments to be made there as well. I think not all, some of the most interesting content sometimes is not necessarily available on Zenodo or EIP Agri. So some projects we know are sitting on some very interesting content, which is not uploaded there, and that we would, of course, like to get. And in that sense, because Lewis also mentioned the ambassadors a few times, I'll quickly share my screen for this. Because if you go to the page, for instance, the engage page, so if you go to project, so on welcome.eufarmbook.eu, and you go to engage, you can actually see, for instance, for your member state, who is actually like an ambassador. So if I click here, for instance, I see that for France, it's actually Florence and Maxime who are actually the specific ambassadors. So in case, for instance, you don't have access to your project on your website, on the EU Farm Book, or you actually want to have more information about certain topics, then actually they're the people who you can consult. So I will stop sharing that now, and I suggest, yes, that we move on to the bulk uploading.
Okay, thank you. So for a bit of context here, so like you can see, this is a kind of one knowledge object at a time, or in the case of where you have multiple knowledge objects for the same metadata, but in different languages, it's still a kind of one by one process and would take a lot of time, particularly for finished projects. If you might already have, for example, 100 knowledge objects that you want to contribute, and you want to find a way to do this that is a little bit less time consuming. So we have what's called an API, an application programming interface, where if you have someone who is got comfortable with doing some, say, kind of data engineering tasks and scripting, you can basically automatically post knowledge objects from your own computers and into our farm book by bypassing the upload form. However, that does require some technical skills, and we found since releasing that actually a lot of projects don't have the individual resource or time to be able to interact with the API and use that directly. Although some are already doing that on a kind of daily or weekly basis as soon as they create their knowledge objects. So I think it will be sometime in the early part of next year, we will be integrating a bulk upload tool alongside the upload form. So basically, you get a choice. Do you just want to go and provide one knowledge object, and then you'll go through a process similar to what we just showed here, or if you have, for example, 100 knowledge objects, you'll enter into a different interface where you will provide this the metadata in more of a fashion that you would do within a spreadsheet than within an individual form. So although we're looking to obviously integrate that into the platform in the early part of next year, in the short term, what we've done is come up with an interim solution where the ambassadors already have access to a bulk upload tool. It doesn't look exactly the same as our platform, which is why we don't want to integrate it right now. But basically, you can start to work with them to fill in a spreadsheet with the metadata for your knowledge objects and give the knowledge objects themselves over, and then they can process those directly into our platform and hopefully save a lot of time and allow you to basically go through the process a lot quicker than if you had to do it one by one in the upload form. So the first thing to do if you want to go through this process is get in contact with your ambassador so that they can share this template with you, this Excel spreadsheet with you, and then they can also help you to fill in the detail. And then once you provided the knowledge objects and you have all the metadata in the template, they can process that. And as soon as they do that, it will automatically push the knowledge objects into our platform, and then you will see them in the same way that we just showed the one example.
You're not sharing your screen, by
I
the way.
am just about to here, yeah. So let me just show here. So the Excel template, I'll just bring it over to my screen and tell me if I need to zoom in a bit. Is it clear enough there, Lawrence?
Yeah, I think that's perfect. Yes.
That's it. So I will start with this first sheet. So this is just it looks a little bit loud, but this first sheet is just giving you some detail about each of the individual metadata properties. So it just gives you some information about what is mandatory, so what's in red, and what is optional, which are those which are in black. And then we also just give you basically a shortcut to seeing all of the individual properties that sit within each of the values that sit within each of the properties, so that you don't need to go to the metadata guide and check them. So you can just go down here, for example, see all the different languages and how they need to be put in. See how you would provide your title. See all the topics and their corresponding subtopics, the categories, the file types. And if I scroll down, some information about the creator or the institution and their email, and all the different locations that you can provide a knowledge object for. This is purely just for information purposes. Where you actually provide the information, you can see here in this example sheet. So here we've just filled in the two rows for this Explorer's Guide from Eurachnos, similar to what we just showed in the upload form. So here we're providing the same metadata for two knowledge objects that are of different languages, but basically will share the same metadata. So it's relatively straightforward to go through here. You can see those ones in red are properties that need to be filled in. Those in black can be left blank if you don't have that information or don't want to provide it. The only thing that's really kind of different here, I guess, to the upload form and to bear in mind is that you just need to make sure that the file name that you provide here is exactly the same as the actual file name for the knowledge object that you're giving. Because once you fill this whole spreadsheet in, and bear in mind this could have hundreds or thousands of rows, what the process will do in the background is basically go through each of those different files that you provided to your ambassador, and then it knows to upload that and then append all of this metadata alongside it. A few things just to bear in mind. So you saw, for example, with keywords where you provide multiple values, you separate these values here using a semicolon. The reason why we have to use a semicolon and not a comma in this case is because some of our metadata property values have got commas in them, and otherwise we have some issues processing it. So it's just important to separate your keywords as an example here using the semicolon. And then you fill in the topics and subtopics, etc. Your date of completion. One of these new metadata properties we're looking at is the region NUTS code, the NUTS 3 code, so you can provide more specific information about the location for your knowledge object than just a country or Europe. Yeah, then you just here provide the project name, because of course in some cases you might be uploading knowledge objects for different projects. There isn't a risk here that you can make a mistake in a sense, because when this is processed into our platform, all of this metadata is checked and quite a clear error message is returned to the ambassador to let them know why something has gone wrong and what to do about it. So for example, if you filled in one of the topics that isn't one of the 6 topics we expect, they get back a message that says you provided the topic, whatever that might be, and that they need to pick one from a particular list. So what we generally find is, that it might be a couple of mistakes the first time round, but then those things go and get fixed, and then it's very easy then just to go and re-upload it and then make all of those knowledge objects available. This is obviously quite manual in terms of having to do this via an Excel spreadsheet here, but what we will build into our platform will be a far more user-friendly version of this, that anyone who's got access to a particular project is able to come along, fill in a spreadsheet-like interface with all of the individual knowledge objects they want to provide, and then upload them very quickly. So I think certainly if you're probably starting to provide, say, more than 10 knowledge objects in one go, this bulk upload tool will be more kind of fit for purpose than using the upload form. I don't know, Lawrence, if I've missed anything there that you want to cover or draw attention to.
I think, well, there's also, I think there are 2 things that I think are coming in. I think the first thing, there's also these additional metadata values that we
Yeah.
can allow in here. I think we did, so if we go to the back of all the way to the back of the form, we have additional metadata values that are actually created because, for instance, some projects have already told us, well, we want to, for instance, have other ways of annotating our data, and therefore we have created that. I think we still need to add the specific way of annotating that, because you need to first add the property of the metadata and then the values. So we will add that to the sheet. And then, yeah, the second question is, there are indeed different different properties here than we saw in the upload form. Is that a problem? Are we missing out on data?
You mean in terms of like the title native and the description
Yes.
native? That you mean? Yeah. So when we first created the upload form, we were only expecting one title for a knowledge object. However, now that we've moved into accepting multiple language versions of a knowledge object, something that we will have to reflect in our upload form as well is that somebody who is providing these multiple language versions may also have the title and description in that particular language. And so rather than us relying on, say, automated language translations, we would very much appreciate that people will want to go and give the proper title and the proper description for each of these different versions. So via this bulk upload tool at the moment, it's possible to provide that information. And then what we're doing with the EU-FarmBook ontology, which is basically this vocabulary that covers all of these different metadata properties, that is being extended. I think it's due to be complete by the end of February of next year. And then at that point, all of these individual knowledge object properties will also become part of our ontology and also available in the upload form, so that when you're going through that process or this bulk upload tool, you can provide these additional properties. And then, like Lauren's mentioned, a number of projects have reached out to us and said, okay, this is fine. These are the EU-FarmBook expected metadata properties, but we have our own that are really important for our particular domain, and also important, we think, for people to be able to find our knowledge objects. So what we are then doing is allowing you to basically choose these new, every project can choose their own metadata properties. So Res Alliance, as an example, I think has 5 or 6 additional metadata properties that they give us that are purely to do with Res Alliance and their domain. And then you can provide them to the EU-FarmBook. And that allows us to use those to index your knowledge objects to improve the search. We will also make those knowledge object properties available within your own project pages as well, so you can give your knowledge objects more identity. And then finally, it gives us some real helpful input into how we might extend the ontology in the future. So we have colleagues at the Agricultural University of Athens who are continually looking at the data that is being uploaded for knowledge objects and seeing how we need to extend our ontology to give a clearer idea of how to really label all of these different knowledge objects we have. So you will see these new metadata properties drop into our metadata guide and into our upload form in the coming months. And then you have the opportunity to provide those. Some of them won't be mandatory, but you have the option to provide them as you wish.
Yeah, and you mentioned something very interesting there because indeed this kind of template is a bit of a trade-off in maybe user friendliness because we were not able, like you actually have to copy cells from, for instance, the data sheet to the example sheet to fill in to annotate actually the knowledge objects. But the advantage is that because we don't need to create an entirely new upload form for whenever we try to add additional properties, that if we notice that there's a new property which is really important to be annotated, then we can easily add this here. And then actually, we don't need to redesign the upload form. Which means that at a later point, everything which is updated manually, we will either try to find a solution where we can automate the generation of that kind of property from the content itself, or that maybe somebody has to come back and edit something if they really want to add that kind of property as well. So the handiness, I would say, then of this template and of the Excel thing is, well, you always are able to annotate the latest kind or the best possible way because it's actually the most complete thing we can do. We don't have to completely redesign the upload form on the platform.
Yeah, this is giving us kind of good insight into how we best design something like these in a more kind of helpful user interface than using an Excel file. Excel is brilliant for its flexibility, but the flexibility also comes at a cost in a sense because people are able to do kind of whatever they like within these spreadsheets, unless you're using things like macros, which we won't be because a lot of institutions don't allow those anymore. So what this allows us to do is really get a good bit of feedback from the ambassadors about what they like about using this process and what they don't like, and that gives us insight into what we will then build into our actual platform. So I think you'll see a very nice flow when it comes to that process when it's actually within our platform. But you're not kind of handheld to have to wait until that. For now, you can just use this spreadsheet, and with a bit of support from the ambassador, get your knowledge objects in the short term.
And I think I would add to that even that because some ambassadors have also told us, well, I'm not always able to spend my full time on annotating something in one go. So I sometimes do it in between other things. And in that sense, the spreadsheet can actually help you save all of the data that you want to annotate so that the moment that you maybe want to use the upload form, you actually have all of those metadata already selected. And you can do that in one go. So in that sense, it could also indeed be very interesting. Now, I'm looking at the chat and I don't see that many questions. So I think there's also, well, because we saw that there were some issues with the loading of the platform, and I think we just need to mention that this is actually a platform which is in full development, but it's actually really important to upload your content because we are also developing some tools in the background which really will work a lot better when we have quite a bit of content. And so normally the stability of the platform that you see also is continuously improving. So yeah, I think that that's actually most of the things that we still needed to say. With that,
Maybe just the one last thing to mention. You'll see one release that will be in the probably in the next month or so will be what we are using now to help people annotate knowledge objects. So this use of natural language processing or large language models, which will basically help to suggest metadata for you. So in the upload form, when you first of all actually provide your knowledge object before you filled in any of the metadata, you will have the option to have the upload form suggest metadata for you. So for example, the title for your knowledge object or the description and the keywords. So we're continually looking for ways to basically improve not only the quality of the metadata that's uploaded, but the speed in which it can be uploaded, which we can extend to the bulk upload tool as well. So yeah, like Lawrence mentioned, the more content that we have to basically train these models, train these kind of automated ways of providing metadata, the better that will become. And yeah, we hope really in the future, especially with all the advances we see in technology, that we get to the stage where someone provides a knowledge object and just really needs to check a few things, just make sure nothing strange has happened, and submit it and spend kind of seconds doing it rather than kind of minutes.
yeah, and there's also an interesting suggestion that came into the chat that actually you can use the batch uploading file and potentially also the metadata guide to be part actually of the data management plan of your project. So if you're looking towards how will I manage all the data that I'm generating within my project, you can actually use our metadata guide as well as this template to already structure that, because that could be very handy to start reflecting on what kind of metadata you need to have instead of having to do it all of a sudden when you're trying to upload it. And with that being said, I would like to thank Lewis for a very nice demonstration of the platform for the multiple ways of uploading. We will, of course, be doing some of these sessions again because, as we mentioned, there are a couple of updates coming up in the near future. And you will be able to find the recording and the presentation of this in the platform, so in the welcome website of the EU-FarmBook project on the training sessions page, which I recommend to consult for upcoming sessions as well. So thank you very much, Lewis, and thank you very much to our guests for being here. And I wish you all a very nice day. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.